and conversations in your groups now. Do we need to elevate people again, Hazel, so we can have a brief conversation? Peter, if you want to give your audio a try, let's just see if we're all back, if you would.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good this time.
All right, awesome, thank you. And Hazel, has the recording started again? All right, well, welcome back. Thanks, everyone. So I thought we could take a few minutes again and kind of reflect on what you discussed and what your experience was with this exercise. So my first question is, was this priority result exercise easy or difficult? And then just going into what was easy. So we're looking at both sides.
This is Peter. I guess I'll speak up. I appreciated doing this, not necessarily from a strategic plan standpoint, but as a board member standpoint. And I guess I had said that last time too, but it helped me significantly understand, even though I've had conversations with Catherine and whatnot about what are we doing here. So I appreciate it, and I thought it was kind of fun and easy. So
wonderful. Thank you. Katrina, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so our group talked about the environmental review work, the two priority areas that related to specifically how the state agencies and how local governments carry out environmental review. And, you know, it's easy to speak for the state agencies when that is where our responsibility lies and where we have control over funding and, or, you know, control over resources once we have the funding. And it was harder to speak to the support needed for the local government. I think the question is, you know, are we providing the right level of support? We recognize that as an important role that EQB plays, but do we need to be reconsidering that as part of this prioritization activity? What type of support are we providing? Is it the right level and frequency? So parts of it were easier than others.
Yeah, great. Thank you. How about others? What was your experience? What was easy? What was more difficult? And like Katrina, Katrina's group, it may be that one part was that it was a little unbalanced. What was your experience?
On our group, we had the one about engaging diverse communities. And I think that one was easy in that everyone said, yes, absolutely, this is important. And then challenging in like, is this its own priority area, or is it something that we need to have embedded across all of the ways that we do our work and is maybe called out as something different? So we had a lot of back and forth about where that one belonged, which I think was really good. Is it something that we expect of ourselves and of the team in the way that we conduct our work, or is it something that is like a specific and different priority area that we are focused on separately?
Great. Thank you. Good insights. Yeah, go ahead.
Is it me?
Yeah, Sean, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing your first name. I'm just saying
Sarah.
Sarah, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I was just like, go ahead. I was like, oh, I don't know what to need. You know, I will just say that I found it a little bit difficult to focus only on two of the full set of priorities because there's overlap kind of amongst them all. And our group had some discussion about, could we drop one of the two we were discussing, and, you know, where would we be creating a gap? And so we went back and referred to the others. And so just, you know, for whatever that's worth, it was interesting to focus just on a subset of
Mhm.
the suite that is intended to work together.
Right. Thank you. How about other thoughts? What was the experience in either, like Sarah said, splitting them apart or having a imbalance, some easier than others? Having that focused attention on just two.
I think we had the same challenge in our group, and we're also thinking about eliminating one and thought about it in the context of the others.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say for our group as well, because my initial reaction was, well, can both of these be the same? Can we just nest one in the other? And Katrina Hopka, who has worked both at EQB and in MPCA and environmental review, did a good job of articulating, why it's really important that technical assistance to local units of government is a part of the priority, and that needs to be articulated beyond, hey, we all work together to implement environmental review.
Well, let's just hope that our group didn't recommend dropping one because an element was in one of the other results that your group recommended dropping, and
So, and let's just maybe jump to that question of, was anything considered droppable? And if it was, what was it?
our group's suggestion came from Nick. So do you want to share your suggestion, Nick?
Well, yeah, can we just, we spent quite a long time talking about priority result number 1. And then after we had done that, as we kind of stared at priority result number 2, we had trouble finding, there was an awful lot of overlap with what we just talked about. And the only thing being the idea of emerging environmental issues, but we sort of thought that maybe a lot of that could collapse into 1, and then the idea that's in number 2 about convening conversations could collapse into 4, so that like if we couldn't really identify something that was distinct and different about number 2, but it could actually be captured in other ones, maybe it wouldn't hurt to sort of drop the whole priority result. Unless we were missing something key about it. So that was our thought of what might be droppable.
You got a thumbs up from Catherine on that. And I think, part of the conversation is, and looking at what might be droppable or that can be collapsed into something else, is less priority, more clarity. So less directions, more clarity, more energy. So yeah. All right, what's one thing that's a keeper?
Well, ours is easy to keep because it's a statutorily mandated thing that we have to do, which is carry out the environmental review.
How about others? What's a for sure keeper? Riley, I see your microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to have it off.
Oh, okay, that's all right.
Well, I'll just say that number 4 is a keeper, I think, and as was mentioned moments ago, and certainly within our breakout, there's a conversation to be had about how it relates to all of the other priorities and how it stands alone as one, perhaps 2, and whether what the choreography there should be. But it seems to be a keeper in any case.
We're engaging Minnesotans in policy and dialogue. Okay. What's a change?
Right, and I'll just say,
ahead.
Kim, sorry,
Yeah.
so sorry, it took me a second. I'm flipping back and forth to go look back at it again, but the this was the one that when we got the hang of the poll, we knew that it was that it's an underappreciated one, or or one that we have a lot of work to do on in relation to diverse perspectives and underrepresented groups.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thank you. So collapsing, I've heard that. What's another change that's being suggested?
Just to clarify, Joseph, was your group, and I guess Commissioner Arnold, you talked about this as well. Were you debating whether the engagement with the public and specifically with underrepresented groups should maybe not be its own thing because it needs to be integrated into all? Or were you saying it should still be its own called out priority result?
We certainly didn't come to a consensus and a recommendation on which of those pathways to take. But we talked about the need to have that conversation, or the potential benefit of having a conversation about how that is sort of a meta priority that should deeply and broadly inflect all of the other priorities. But it's also probably important to have it underscored as a priority value or a primary value of the EQB some way in this 5-year plan.
And just for a little bit of context, we, I think, have in a lot of drafting of documents, including in the climate action framework, had this debate as well. And so I think what I ended up asking Catherine to do was to give us 2 options so that we have one where we have, you know, specific metrics embedded into all of the final ones that we have, and then one having it separate under the entire, like under the guise that this is very important and we're maybe doing it like a slight disservice by not having it embedded in some of the other priority areas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this is the discussion you had, but like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, I think on one level, yes, when you say it's part of everything, that makes it feel important. And on the other hand, if it's called out in its own thing, and like, I think that EQB does public engagement quite well, but I think that there's a lot of room for improvement in engaging underrepresented groups, because I think we do hear from the same few folks all the time. So like, if that's its own thing, and we don't feel like we're doing a good job on number 4, if we're not doing all of number 4, maybe that gives it more attention. I'm not sure, but I don't want us to lose that for sure.
Yeah, and one thing that we talked about was moving it to a value. So we weren't, so that like that becomes a value and then it's embedded in all that. So yeah, that is very much in the lines of the conversation that we had. And I think is worth maybe like a longer conversation with the full board to figure out, you know, kind of where we land, because I think we had no challenge in identifying that this is something that was important, but like the way that we drive to an outcome that we all find is important, I think was sort of where we went back and forth. The as written, it is only sort of the priority area is specific to policy conversations. And we also found that that was not expansive enough, because it doesn't account for, you know, kind of the normal course of business feedback. It's sort of was only like it is only specific about like policy conversations. And we thought that that was too narrow. So that then shifted us into, oh, it should be in everything. Like that should be broader. Oh, should this be its own thing? You know, so we kind of like went on a journey of where we thought it might land. I don't know if anyone else has thoughts, but that's kind of the way that our conversation evolved, was at first identifying it was important and maybe too narrow, and then moved on to like, should it be in everything that we're doing?
All right. Great dialogue. So I'm going to ask my final question of the day, and that is, what big picture takeaways are there? Are there any big picture takeaways? And it could be going through this activity or going through the mission activity, kind of from this afternoon. What are the big picture takeaways?
Again, I think the poll results showed that the board is clearly better at some things than others, which isn't a surprise to us, and that you know, we probably have more work to do on some priority areas as evident by the discussion that we're just having. And in those areas, it's going to take everybody leaning in order to help us figure out how to do it. Because if it were easy, we would already be doing that well. So, you know, more to come.
Great. Thank you. Other big picture takeaways or additional, building on what you've heard. All right. Well, let's bring this activity to a close here. And I just want to say thank you again. Thank you to the board for participating in a heavy lift on a Wednesday afternoon. So really appreciate that. I appreciate all of our facilitators and scribes. Appreciation to Catherine for pulling together the team and leading our team, to Carrie and Hazel in the background, making our technology run smoothly, and everyone's patience and grace as we hit a few bumps with the technology, but got through those just, I think, real fine. So that concludes today's workshop. I'm going to turn it over to board member Nick Martin in Nancy's absence, and we'll bring it to a close. And thanks so much. Nick, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Kim, and thanks to Carrie for leading the discussion, laying the groundwork for the new strategic plan. We're now just going back into the regular order. We're a few minutes ahead of where we need to be in the agenda, so I just wanted to give one more chance for any board members. If there was anything else, any other reflections or questions that you feel weren't covered, just give you one more chance. Otherwise, we can go on. Okay. So if no one, I think that the last, just the last bit of our agenda is we have a time for a public comment. Public comment is on, what is it, Catherine? I missed the very beginning, so maybe you could help me there. Just any outstanding issue.
Sure. Chair, we discussed we would prioritize any comment folks who are watching had on the breakout rooms on the strategic plan. So we would start there and then open it up if we still had time.
Okay, great. And if you are interested in commenting, you can raise your hand in Teams. And Rebecca, I believe, is the one watching that. Rebecca, I'll have you help me and let me know if there's anyone who has their hand raised to speak.
Thank you, Chair. At the moment, we have no hands raised yet.
Okay. We can give it just a minute. Maybe last call for any public comments. Still nothing, Rebecca?
Nothing yet. No.
Okay.
No hands.
Well, great. I think we can move to adjournment then. That's our next item. Thank you again to all the board members for participating in this discussion. It gives me a lot of excitement and confidence in the development of the strategic plan that we're entering onto. You know, that'll be a longer process. If there's nothing from anyone else, could I get a motion for adjournment?
I can make that motion.
Great. Was that Commissioner Kessler?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
A second, please.
I can second it. It's Commissioner Arnold.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nay. No one's opposed to having 13 minutes back, so the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.